candidates from smaller parties. The vote will be held without the participation of leading opposition party Chadema, which was disqualified in April after failing to sign the Electoral Code of Conduct as part of its call for electoral reforms. The Independent National Electoral Commission approved her son and her running mate, Emmanuel Nchimbi, to run in the October 29th election after receiving their nomination forms yesterday. As Uganda heads to the election next year, at least 50 candidates have shown interest in running in the 2026 vote. 7 of the candidates are women who promise to fix the rot and create employment. One of those is Akelo Peace Merisha, a young graduate of Kiambogo University who is fast emerging as a powerful voice in Uganda's political and activist circles.
It's so hard in these polls, and our ability to stand out will stand on the values that we bring. In a country like mine, the elections are highly monetized. That is one. So it comes back down to who has the paper, who can run the polls better, who can convince people. And at the end of the day, you get to realize that our politics is not idea based. At the end of the day, it's about, the vibe and all that. Our campaign is built on a clear vision. We want to empower the youth, we want to fight corruption, and ensuring that, the fragmented agendas that have been promised over the years are seen come to pass.
A cholera outbreak in Bukuyum district of Zamfara state in northwest Nigeria has claimed at least 8 lives and infected over 200 people across 11 communities. The affected rural communities have been overwhelmed with many patients treated at home due to the lack of primary healthcare facilities. Zamfara health authorities have yet to issue an official statement on the outbreak as limited healthcare access and insecurity exacerbate the crisis. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says South Africa will continue to advocate for peace on the global stage. He says the conflicts on the continent are a concern and hinder economic development amid the U.S. imposition of tariffs on numerous countries, including 30% tariffs on South African goods. Lamola was briefing the media in Pretoria. He says South Africa has established a team to assess conflicts in the region.
A delegation led by the Deputy Director General for Africa, Ambassador Tebogosi Okolo, recently visited Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger to gain first-hand insights into the dynamics in the Sahel region. In the Great Lakes region, South Africa remains gravely concerned about the humanitarian and the security situation in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, despite peace agreement.
China has announced that the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will attend next week's military parade, marking 80 years since the end of the Second World War. He'll be one of the 26 leaders in Beijing alongside President Putin. The BBC's Laura Becker has the story.
What I do think, certainly, with the optics of this, is wonder what part can China play, if any, in persuading these two leaders to end the invasion of Ukraine. We know that that's something that President Trump wants China's help with. Is this something that can happen on this occasion? So that's one of the questions we'll be asking. And does this raise the prospect in the future of all three leaders meeting at some point President Trump?
For any news stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I'm Jolani Tulo-Webe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, East African football legends believe the Chan tournament will leave a lasting legacy. Sweden's Armand Duplessis sealed wins in the Diamond League. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Oh, thank you to Jalani Tulongwepe with our news updates and Figilele Ngwati with our sports headlines. It is 12:06 Central African Time and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, on OpenV channel 628 and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Now join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. And today on hashtag Africa Update Us, we focus on Nigeria, Kenya, Somalia, and South Sudan. These are some of the countries, the African countries, expected to run out of ready-to-use emergency food over the next 3 months, now putting severely malnourished children at risk of dying. Our question to you today is, what can be done to assist countries on the African continent who are at risk of running out of emergency foods? Let us know your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Updates Us.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
The 27th Interpol African Regional Conference is being hosted for the first time in Cape Town, as in the Western Cape of South Africa, at the Century City Conference Centre in South Africa. This year's theme, leveraging cooperation, innovation and partnership for fighting transnational crime, aims to look at strategies that will help combat emerging security threats and organized crime around the globe. Ministers, police chiefs and security experts from around the world are attending the event. Amahle Dutoit.
The three-day gathering is aimed at addressing the many challenges faced within the law enforcement agencies. Authorities attending the conference say the expected result of the conference is to establish agreements that will strengthen regional responses while also serving as a platform for the exchange of practices that will deepen law enforcement partnerships. Interpol's president, Major General Dr. Ahmed Nasir Al-Raisi elaborates.
The African Regional Conference is not just a yearly gathering, it's a testament to the enduring spirit of partnership that defines Interpol's work on the continent. Our theme this year reflects the urgent challenges we face, but more importantly, it signals our shared determination to find solutions together.
National Commissioner of the SAPS, General Fani Masemula, says transnational organized crime remains a major threat not only in South Africa, but across the continent. Drug trafficking, human trafficking and cybercrime are among other threats that have been highlighted. Masemula says these crimes not only weaken governments in countries, but also fuel corruption and destabilize communities.
Our duty as law enforcement leaders is not only to dismantle these criminal networks, but also to restore dignity and protection and hope to the people we serve. Esteemed delegates, Africa is a continent of immense potential of growth, innovation and resilience. Yet, these very strengths are targeted by those who profit from instability and exploitation. The only way to protect this promise is to build strong institutions, share intelligence, harmonize our legal frameworks, and strengthen trust amongst our nation.
Acting Minister of Police Professor Firoz Kachalia has welcomed the regional conference. Kachalia says the gathering will form an Interpol African committee that will promote structured collaboration initiatives.
The importance of this conference lies not only in its agenda, but also in its substantive agenda, policy agenda, but its practical orientation.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Millvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Africa aims to promote the secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
The KZN Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Forum Africa aims to promote secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism investment in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from the 27th of August to the 29th at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Rwanda's President Paul Kagame and visiting Mozambican counterparts Daniel Chapo have signed key agreements in peace and security. A status of the force agreement was signed by Rwanda's Minister of Defense and Mozambique's Minister of National Defense in their support to fight terrorism in Mozambique. Since 2021, Rwanda and Mozambican armed forces have collaborated in the fight against insurgents in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province. Now, let's take a listen to what Mozambique's President Daniel Chapo said through an interpreter.
We need to work together in areas of security, agriculture, trade, industry and investment in Mozambique and Rwanda. During the conversations, we also transmitted our thanks to the people of Rwanda and the government of Rwanda, and also to thank the people of Rwanda through the Rwandan forces who are helping our nation to combat terrorism in the province of Cabo Delgado. Once more, we would like to pay homage to the men and women of Rwanda who, alongside the Mozambican forces, have been fighting the terrorists, the enemies of peace, stability, development, and the well-being of the Mozambicans. Thanks to this cooperation.
That was Mozambique's President Daniel Chapo speaking through an interpreter. And for more, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in Rwanda, Silvanus Karemera. Silvanus, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon to you too.
Now, Silvanus, there are several cooperation frameworks in place already. Tell us more about these and, what else has been added to these agreements.
Thank you, Lulu. There have been several agreements, just like you said, between the two countries, including the business and tourism and others. And of recent, we've seen reciprocal visits by the business delegations from both countries, Rwanda and Mozambique, and you have had some agreements signed in previous years. But this particular one were just the two agreements, which were to some point renewal of what has always been existing. In this case, just like you have just read, cooperation, security, and safety between the two countries, especially in regards to what is happening in Cabo Delgado and the presence of Rwandan soldiers in the northern part of Mozambique, as well as a business between the two countries, because the signing was, especially with the business, was between Rwandan Development Board and the Mozambican Investment Export Agency, which were all aimed at enhancing the business cooperation between the two countries. So I would say that all of this is built on existing cooperation security framework, which at some point one has been, taking place in restoring peace in Cabo Delgado since 2022, where Rwanda sent soldiers to subdue the attacks which has been, ravaging the area by the jihadists, the jihadists in that area. So I would say that the visit by the first state visit by the fifth president of Mozambique, Daniel Chapo, was to some point to enhance this cooperation, because today he's been visiting different areas, including the areas of investment in Rwanda to see opportunities that exist between the two countries.
Now, Silvanus, in terms of this, another topic is the good progress that is being made when Rwanda's President Paul Kagame cited the renewal of not only the peace, the cooperation in peace and security that you've touched on, but has there really been peace in that region? And is that region now, that area of Cabo Delgado, secure, especially for the people from that area who are still struggling because of the insecurity and instability there?
Well, I think that's very tricky. That's a very tricky and very difficult question. But we can go by history of the recent history since 2017, when the Mozambique and northern part of it was engulfed by attacks by jihadists. This region has always been ravaged by different attacks. But from when Rwanda deployed in that area in 2022, reports and some of the witnesses from the ground, you cannot say that the peace has been restored 100%, but at least the resumption of the investment. In this case, we see a $20 million investment in the construction of Total Energies, company there, which has been stored its operations for quite some time. So you can see some of the smoke at the end of the tunnel in terms of safety and security. But of course, this signing is happening amid the renewed attacks by the terrorists there in that region, and therefore we think, as journalists, we think that maybe that's why the Mozambican president is coming in here to see if they can scratch around and see if they can add on momentum to actually invest much more on ensuring security in that region. But at least at some point, maybe I don't know the percentage rate, but some people have even been coming back to their residences. So you can see a sense of security and safety. But of course, we still see some attacks from that region.
Now, another issue that was highlighted was the violent extremism across the African continent and the threat to people and government. Now, what did the leaders say about this issue, and what follow-ups will they be undertaking, especially with the fact that most times leaders on the African continent don't call each other out, especially when they see that a counterpart is doing something wrong, but they generally try to remain as diplomatic as possible.
That's the problem, actually. That's a challenge, actually. As you likely said, African presidents and leaders, to some point, have always been good at delivering speeches in different fora. But when it comes to specific cases, we don't see them. Actually, even if you went by the current conflict between the DRC and Rwanda and the eastern part of the DRC, you see some external forces coming in to intervene, but you don't see any voice from the African continent. So specifically speaking, during this visit and ceremony of signing the two memorandum of understanding, President Paul Kagame said this was yet another good step towards restoring peace and working together. And he specifically said that the African people, generally speaking, African people should be the one to work together to restore peace on the continent, because outsourcing solutions from external, foreign power for this matter is not going to help. And he said that in this area of joint venture is a good area to invest as African, insinuating that Africa does not expect any durable peace, outsourced from the outside of the continent, emphasizing that such cooperation, bilateral cooperation, multilateral cooperation, is going to be a long-term solution if all African countries and the leaders specifically are going to work together. But just like you said, it's still very tricky to actually attend this because you see some problems, across the region and across the African continent, where leaders are not speaking or talking the same language when it comes to providing solution of what is befalling the African continent.
Now, apart from that, just from what you're highlighting that President Kagame spoke of, it's very interesting when you look at the dynamic when it comes to the DRC and the involvement of not only the SADC region in terms of countries coming forward to try and assist in bringing peace in the DRC, the eastern parts of the DRC. This has not come to fruition because President Paul Kagame was just not, seemingly interested, as well as the DRC's president. It was a touch and go, and unfortunately, the African leaders could not get anywhere until there was international intervention.
That's it. Because I mean, the gains and the security concern is on an individual basis. Each country minds about the security and safety of its borders before it actually goes back. I mean, it goes beyond the security, the national security, to now becoming the continental. So there have been this challenge where some African leaders see the problem as if some foreign interventions are coming for their personal gains, and in this case, some of the African leaders are used by intervention from the foreign forces to actually at the detriment of their fellow Africans, which is why and what you see currently, or rather going on, because all the misunderstanding that you see does not necessarily mean that the African countries do have problems. It's until when we see some external forces for the political gains and economic gains to come and distort what is going on. That's why you perhaps see the same problem that we are talking about.
Yeah, well, Sinavas, we have enough time and are going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you, Lulu.
That's our correspondent in Rwanda, Silvanus Karamera, joining us on the line.
AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Forum Africa aims to promote secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism investment in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from the 27th to the 29th of August at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 25 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The 75th World Health Organization Regional Committee for Africa Conference that Zambia has been hosting has come to a close, with commitment by member states to prioritize health despite the continent facing numerous health challenges. The Regional Committee, which is the highest WHO decision-making body in the region, convenes once a year, and the Lusaka one has been under the theme Building a Healthier Africa Together. Our correspondent Arthur Davis Sokopo, who was attending the conference, now gives us a wrap.
Yes, it is clear that weak health systems are a threat to development of any society. And it is by this that the World Health Organization, WHO, established the Regional Committee for Africa, where African ministers of health would sit discuss and endorse policies that look at activities and financial plans aimed at improving the health of the people of the continent. Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema, who opened the 3-day conference, called for enhanced collaboration among East African countries.
We need to position health as a driver for regional trade and industrialization.
Hichilema, who is also WHO bestowed champion of cholera control in Africa, is asking other African countries to take lead in other innovations or interventions, as he pledged that Zambia will focus on cholera vaccine manufacturing soon.
Should we depend on someone outside of this continent for a painkiller? Absolutely not. To address these challenges, and Zambia will take the lead in the cholera local vaccine manufacturing, and other countries must do other things. Then we don't duplicate.
WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus expressed concern.
According to WHO's latest analysis, health aid is projected to decline by up to 40% this year compared to just 2 years ago. This is not a gradual shift, it's a cliff edge. Life-saving medicines are sitting in warehouses. Health workers are losing jobs. Clinics are closing, and millions are missing out on immunization and care.
The conference has had over 600 delegates from across the continent attending, including 47 African ministers of health, or their representatives, global and regional health leaders, development partners, among other local stakeholders. Concerns during the conference, such as low health workforce on the continent, need for improved and increased immunization, integration of non-communicable diseases in the key health strategies were some of the issues that were raised. Dr. Michael Edekunle Charles of RBM Partnership to End Malaria calls on African leaders to invest more in health.
And we're really calling on our leaders to ensure that we invest in health.
South Africa's Minister of Health, Aaron Motsoaledi, and Botswana's Deputy Minister of Health, Lawrence Okedise, spoke to the need for enhanced collaboration in health diplomacy. Dr. Charity Binker and Bernard Okede of African Media and Malaria Research Network.
Because I believe strongly that the disease burden that Africa faces right now is more about ignorance than the disease itself. Because people are refusing treatment, people are doing self-medication, they don't take proper doses of drugs, all because they are ignorant about so many things.
The role of the media. You people play a very, very pivotal role on public education and awareness.
Ethiopia is set to host the next committee meeting in 2026. Reporting in Lusaka, Zambia, I'm Arthur Davis, Scopo.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 #Africa Update, and let us know which country you're in. Our news headlines up next with Jwalani Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines. Tanzania's Electoral Commission has barred the presidential candidate of its second biggest opposition party, Luhagampina, of the Alliance for Change and Transparency, from contesting polls in October. This leaves President Samia Suluhu Hassan to face only candidates from smaller parties. A cholera outbreak in Bukuyum district of Zamfara state in northwest Nigeria has claimed at least 8 lives and infected over 200 people across 11 communities. And finally, Ukraine is again coming under heavy Russian air attack, with the capital Kyiv reporting bombardment by ballistic missiles and drones. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
We kick off with football news. East African football legends Victor Wanyama of Kenya and Mrisho Ngasa of Tanzania believe the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship CHAN 2024 will leave a lasting legacy in boosting local leagues across the region. For the first time, the month-long tournament has been staged jointly by 3 countries, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. Uganda will host the third-place playoff on Friday before the final takes place at Nairobi's Moi Sports Centre, Kasarani, on Saturday evening. Both Wanyama and Gasa, who are serving as trophy ambassadors, say the competition has reignited love for the game in East Africa and will significantly impact domestic football, especially given CHAN is reserved exclusively for home-based players. Carabao Cup holders Newcastle will start the defence of their crown at home to League One Bradford in the third round. League Two Grimsby Town will travel to champions Sheffield Wednesday after shocking Manchester United in a spectacular penalty shootout win at Blundell Park. Manchester City will take on League One Huddersfield Town at Aku Stadium, while Arsenal will travel to Port Vale. The third round fixtures will take place across 2 weeks, beginning on the 15th and the 22nd of September, with Champions League and Europa League fixtures also scheduled during this period. Miguel Cardoso, head coach of South African football champions Mamelodi Sundowns, has questioned why his team is being judged harshly when they don't win and treated differently from other teams. Cardoso was speaking during a post-match conference at FNB Stadium in Johannesburg following a goalless draw against Kaizer Chiefs last night.
We draw twice with the Orlando Pirates and we draw with Kaizer Chiefs. That was the first position in the table. I don't see us drawing games against teams from third division or second division. What you expect that this kind of games is always to arrive here and give them 5. Respect by the opponents, respect because you are not respecting. To me, you are respecting me, but probably you are not respecting the teams. You are making them much worse than they are. I think you're not respecting the teams that we played against, that are very big teams. Last year, Orlando Pirates made the semi-final of the Champions League. I would like to remember.
Still reeling from their exit in the MTN 8 semi-final at the hands of Orlando Pirates, Cardoso suggested that drawing against Chiefs, who are currently doing well, might not be a bad thing.
I didn't see the stats of the game. I think it's just you saying that they had better chance or more chances. I have to see the game. After I see it and I make accountability on the chances, I will be able to answer you better. I think both teams had chances, both teams had moments. And that's what we saw today, a beautiful game between two teams that fight it a lot. The teams that are in two different moments. One team comes from three victories. We come from 2 draws.
And finally with athletics, Sweden's Armand Mondo Duplantis and Australian Nicola Oslangas sealed wins in the Diamond League finals in a high-octane city event in downtown Zurich yesterday. Duplantis, fresh from setting a 13th world record of 6.29 meters in Budapest earlier this month, was competing in one of the 6 field disciplines held at Zurich's Seeschlaportplatz, directly in front of the city's iconic opera house. The US-born Swede had described the pole vault as a beautiful circus act, and the street feel to the event certainly led to a visceral ambience that left the temporary stands shaking amid stomping feet and raucous choreographed cheers. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Figile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. In this episode of Channel Africa Conversations, Peter talks to Dr. Thulisile Buddha, an academic, author, and an expert in indigenous knowledge systems. Join us for a compelling discussion on preserving African languages and traditions in the digital era. Dr. Thulisile unpacks the role of educators, explorers, and how technologies like AI can support cultural preservation, and challenges us to rethink how we honor African heritage. You can find the episode on YouTube, SABC Plus, and on our website, channelafrica.co.za. This episode is a must-listen for educators, creators, and change makers across the continent. Channel Africa, the African Perspective. Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
A very good afternoon. South Africa's Impala Platinum has restored dividend payments despite a 70% fall in annual profits on the back of persistently low metal prices and a fall in production. Impala posted headline earnings of $41.68 million in the year ended 30th June, down from $125.7 million the previous year. The company has declared a dividend of just over 9 US cents per share. South Africa's Deputy Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Nomalungelo Gina, has delivered a keynote address at the South Africa-Tunisia Women's Day celebration at the Tunisian Embassy in Pretoria. The event, co-hosted by the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation and the Embassy of Tunisia, is held under the theme, The Role of Science Diplomacy in Women Empowerment. South African-Tunisian Experience. Michael Mbewe reports.
Supported by the Science Diplomacy Capital of South Africa, an initiative of the DSTI, the program will include 2 thematic discussions on how science diplomacy can advance women's empowerment and gender equality. Science diplomacy is viewed as a powerful tool to advance gender equality in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM, by promoting education, policy change, global networking, and innovation partnerships that strengthen women's leadership and participation in STEM. South Africa and Tunisia have collaborated on science, technology, and innovation for over a decade.
South African food rescue organisation SA Harvest has recently received the Top Supply Chain Award for its surplus food rescue efforts, which it reroutes to community organisations. The Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards conferred the organisation with a Judges Spotlight Award and a joint award for humanitarian and health supply chain management. SA Harvest has rescued over 22 million kilograms of food, creating over 90 million meals. Spokesperson Cassandra Potgieter explains how they've managed to promote sustainability for such a long time and what their plans are going forward.
So ASIA, or the African Supply Chain Excellence Award, is a body that basically celebrates all forward-thinking and innovative approaches to all elements of supply chain on the African continent. That is why this is such a huge feather in our cap. There were over 100 submissions to this body and panel of judges, and it's a huge celebration of the recognition of the innovative way SA Harvest operates within the food rescue and relevant supply chain arenas that goes with it.
Egypt has signed a $220 million contract with investors from the United Arab Emirates to build an integrated complex for producing solar cells, panels and energy storage systems in the Suez Canal zone. The Egyptian cabinet says that the facility will have the capacity to produce 2 gigawatts of solar cells and 2 gigawatts of solar panels. The project, known as Atom Solar Egypt, is a partnership between Egyptian, Emirati, Bahraini and Chinese investors. Malaysia's parliament has passed a law today to better regulate government procurement processes as rights groups and some opposition lawmakers raised concerns over potential loopholes and a lack of independent oversight. The Southeast Asian country has been seeking to strengthen fiscal management and avoid the massive financial losses linked to corruption cases. It has also long struggled to contain leakage and misappropriation from graft involving public officials, particularly through the awarding of government contracts through negotiations rather than open tenders. The government procurement bill is aimed at ending such practices and providing a framework for all government agencies and local authorities that utilize public funds. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,534 naira. In Botswana, it's at 13.31. Kenya, 128 shilling 45, and Zambia, 23 kwacha 33. The BRICS countries in Brazil, $1 will cost you 5 real 43. Russia, 80 rubles 34. India, 87 rupees 71. China, 7 yuan 15. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 17 rand 68 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Gold at $3,339. Platinum, it's at $1,351 per ounce. Brent crude oil is at $67.77 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Tabiso Lohoko.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, bring you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa. As a global platform for local action, the Tourism Investment Africa aims to promote the secondary and tertiary cities and regions as attractive investment and tourism hubs. Be part of the movement transforming tourism in Africa. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 12:42 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. At least 4 countries in Africa are expected to run out of ready-to-use emergency food over the next 3 months. Now, this is due to aid cuts if gaps are not plugged. Our Save the Children says this is putting severely malnourished children at risk of dying. And to tell us more, we are joined on the line by Yvonne Arunga, Save the Children's Regional Director for East and Southern Africa, based in Nairobi, Kenya. Yvonne, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon. Glad to join you this afternoon.
Now, Yvonne, Nigeria, Kenya, Somalia and South Sudan are at least 4 countries that are expected to run out of the emergency food. Which other countries are we looking at?
Well, those are the most affected in the continent. But if we were to expand it, I would say, we are talking about malnutrition being witnessed also in Sudan. That's also under, civil conflict. We are witnessing also malnutrition cases in the north of Mozambique. And then in the countries that host refugees across Africa, such as Uganda and the refugee camps in the parts of Tanzania that borders Burundi, and as well as camps in Rwanda, those are also hotspots for malnutrition.
Now, tell us more about the ready-to-use therapeutic food, that's the RUTF, and how it works.
So RUTF is a therapeutic nutrient-dense paste, right, made out of milk powder, sugar, oils. So it tries to deliver this very high energy, very high nutrient paste to children who are suffering malnutrition. And it's a product that doesn't need refrigeration. So it can be transported to the very hardest to reach areas where children are suffering severe acute malnutrition. And with this, it's both food and treatment. Of course, it's both food and medicine. And when children receive this, then the outcomes are very good.
Now, when we look at these countries and we say that these countries are to run out of food within the next 3 months, exactly at what deficit are we sitting in terms of the countries that are in crisis, for lack of a better word? And, with this RUTF, is this the answer to dealing with this crisis, and how long of a process will it take for this paste to be delivered in all these crisis-ridden countries?
Well, so just to put it in context, right? In Nigeria, 3.5 million children under 5 are severely malnutritioned. with the highest needs in the conflict-affected areas in Nigeria, that is the northeast and the northwest. And in Kenya, it's 2.5 million who are currently under acute food insecurity. The RUTF stocks in Kenya ran out in October and are at less than 70% of what's needed. In Nigeria, likewise, less than 70% of what's needed during this season. In Somalia, we have 1.8 million children under 5 who are at risk of malnutrition. And 1 in 8 children in Somalia is suffering the most dangerous form of malnutrition, which I mentioned earlier. That is severe acute malnutrition. And in Somalia, we have less than 40% of the stocks of RUTF needed. Then coming down to the last of the 4 countries, which is South Sudan, we have 2.3 million children under 5 who are acutely malnourished, with only a third of the RUTF needed. So as you can see, we are in a perfect storm. So in other years, we usually would have had more than 80% of the RUTF stock needed to treat malnutrition children. But 2025 is an exceptional year. From the figures that I've just shared with you, you can see we are off what is needed.
What has
and
changed?
That means,
what is the difference between other years and 2025 for you to be sitting at such low levels?
Well, we are facing global aid cuts and funding collapses, right? So in past crises, donor funding was mobilized very quickly to fill nutrition gaps, but this time there's been severe cuts in the international aid, mechanisms. So that means supplies of RUTF are running out, and then we have worsening supply chain pressures. The world at large is facing RUTF shortages. Manufacturers simply not able to keep up due to, again, funding in uncertainty, but also because of high raw material costs. RUTF, like I'd said, is made out of peanuts, milk, powder, and oil. And there's no buffer stock this time round. And we're in a multiple crisis situation in the humanitarian sector right now. So we're looking at in north and northeastern Nigeria, there's prolonged conflicts, there's climate shocks, we have economic downturns. So, and all these are hitting at the same time. Not to speak about droughts, floods that are destroying harvests and then displacing families across these countries. So that just makes the situation worse. As I speak right now, Africa accounts for 60% of the world's most food insecure populations.
What alternatives are there, or what alternatives can be put in place?
So, I mean, there's measures that can be put in place for the short term and then the longer term ones, right? So, malnutrition does not wait. Children need food right away. So, what we need in the short term is, what makes access to RUTF possible. So, Save the Children has been running, outpatient programs, and together with the governments of these countries, I must say, to provide that immediate treatment for severe acute malnutrition children. But this needs resources, right? And it also needs, integrated, care, making sure, that staff are there, immunization, safe treatment, access to clean water. So there's a very real resource challenges in the short term. But for the medium and to the long term, it's all about, a call to action by our policymakers and those who supported in the past. So we are urging for financial support. We are wanting to raise, funds that ensure that, the access to RUTF, the supply chains of RUTF, are restored. And so we are also calling upon, governments and institutions to fund the flexibility, of access to this and to prioritize this. So there's measures that need to be looked at right away to prevent immediate deaths of children. But then there's also things that have to be, put in place to ensure, that there's stability in the medium term, but also solutions for the long term.
Now, Yvonne, there's also been a number of closures of facilities in these countries. How has this further impacted the work that you as Save the Children have been doing?
Yeah, when there's closure to facilities, it just makes it even more worse, right? So you can imagine if you're a mother that has a malnutrition child and you have to access a facility. So playing in your mind is a very real risk that you will get there after a very long journey and find that the RUTF that you seek, the treatment that you seek for your child is not available. That's a real concern, as we've been discussing. But then now there's the added challenge that you actually make it to a treatment center or a stabilization center, and those have not been set up, like the temporary stabilization center. But if you make it also to, health centers, there might not be, the solutions that you seek, the access to RUTF or even to staff. So that makes a situation that's already critical, it makes it worse, much, much worse.
Yeah. Well, Yvonne, we have run out of time and are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you very much.
That's Yvonne Arunga, Save the Children's Regional Director for East and Southern Africa, joining us on the line.
The KwaZulu-Natal Convention Bureau, in collaboration with Milvest Advisory and the city of Umhlathuze, brings you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum, Africa. By positioning these regions for sustainable growth, TIFA helps drive their economic ambitions while providing access to critical capital, networks, and strategic insights on investments in the trade services sector, such as tourism. Join us for the TIFA 2025 from August 27 to 29 at Tembela Venue, Richards Bay, KZN, South Africa. Be part of the movement transforming tourism and infrastructure in Africa. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, has outlined the country's ongoing diplomatic and peacekeeping efforts across the African continent, as well as its strategic global partnerships. Lamola was speaking at a media briefing held in Pretoria, saying that South Africa remains deeply engaged in monitoring the security situation across the Sahel and the Great Lakes regions. Our Channel Africa's reporter, Michael Mbewe, has more.
In his address, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, said a high-level delegation led by South Africa's International Relations and Cooperation Deputy Director General for Africa, Ambassador Tebogo Siopolo, recently visited countries in the Sahel region to gain first-hand insight into regional dynamics. He said the findings will inform future diplomatic steps once fully reviewed by government.
South Africa continues to closely monitor and engage on the security situation in the various regions of the continent. A delegation led by the Deputy Director General for Africa, Ambassador Tebogo Siopolo, recently visited Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria to gain first-hand insights into the dynamics in the Sahel region, a critical step in informing our ongoing diplomatic efforts. Once his full report has been comprehensively engaged within government, we will announce further measures in this regard.
Turning to the Democratic Republic of Congo, Lamola expressed grave concern over continued fighting in the eastern region between the M23 rebel groups and government forces, despite peace agreements. He reiterated South Africa's commitments to peace, emphasizing that any lasting solution must be African-led and inclusive.
In the Great Lakes region, South Africa remains gravely concerned about the humanitarian and the security situation in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Despite peace agreement, fighting between the M23 rebel groups and the DRC armed forces persists. South Africa welcomes international efforts but emphasizes that a sustainable solution must be African-led and inclusive of all local actors.
He affirmed that South Africa continues to support stability efforts in the DRC through its military contributions to the United Nations mission MONUSCO.
South Africa continues to contribute military personnel and equipment to the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the DRC, well known as MONUSCO, particularly the Force Intervention Brigade, in support of the DRC's efforts to achieve stability and reconstruction.
On South Sudan, Lamola said South Africa remains actively involved in efforts to implement the revitalized peace agreement through the African Union High-Level Ad Hoc Committee.
South Africa is also actively involved in the African Union High-Level Ad Hoc Committee on South Sudan, a body we chair. We reiterate our call on all South Sudanese stakeholders to fully and effectively implement the revitalized peace agreement on the resolution of conflict in the Republic of South Sudan to bring an end to the suffering of the civilian population.
While in Sudan, Lamola described the ongoing conflict as devastating. He called for an immediate and conditional cessation for hostilities to address the unfolding humanitarian crisis.
South Africa is extremely troubled to witness the devastating and wanton fighting in the Republic of Sudan. This conflict comes at a time when the region's security situation is deteriorating. The signing of political framework agreement between the civilian political forces and the military institution in Sudan on the 5th of December 2022 was a first critical step towards the formation of a civilian-led transitional government.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628.
Well, it is that time of the day where we say a happy Thursday to the Upside team, and it is Lulu Gaboo and Matsiko Musito. They're not here in studio with us here in Johannesburg. They're all the way in KwaZulu-Natal, KwaMhlathuze. Hello, guys. How are you?
Hello, Queen Lulu. Yes, indeed. We are broadcasting from the city of Richards Bay, and of course we are here to acknowledge the TIFA for the year 2025. Lots coming through. We're going to be catching up with the MEC of MEC Musa Zondi under the Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs Department here in KwaZulu-Natal, and he's going to tell us about government's participation in TIFA for this year. We're also going to be catching up with Zodwa Zigalala in her capacity as head of brand and marketing of Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone. They are doing so much work really to showcase the economic development of the city of Mhlathuze. But we also have quite a big story that's coming up, hey, Deboho?
Absolutely. So, Lulu, remember at the beginning of the week, we got into conversation with a young man called Tsepo who won a lottery a couple of years ago, but never got paid.
17 million, if I remember
17 million,
yes,
imagine. That's a lot of money.
Big number.
Today, we are in conversation with a representative from Ituba, Michelle van Trottensberg, Ituba Head of Corporate Services and Marketing, to just give us some answers and the way forward for cases like Abotsepo. So it's going to be an exciting show today.
The fact that you're saying for cases like Abotsepo means there may be more people.
There are quite a few.
Oh, really?
Yo, Lulu.
Oh, that's shocking.
It's drama.
Okay, you have to stay tuned. I'm definitely tuning in today, guys. Well, that's the Upside coming up at the top of the hour with Lulu Gaboo and Matsiko Musito, all the way from Mhlathuze in the KwaZulu-Natal province. This is at the Milvest Advisory and the city of Mhlathuze, bringing you the 2025 Tourism Investment Forum Africa underway. And for myself, Lulu Gaboo, it has been a great day. And thank you to our producer, Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator, Wandile Mate, and social media, Sfiso Hlope and Talent Butelezi. Thank you for joining us, and continue with us on our social media platforms. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
SABC News.